Hello, everyone, and welcome back. It's the Full 40 with Chris, Trevor, and Rob.
What?
Welcome back.
I'm here.
You're here.
I'm here.
We're coming to you live after another Villanova loss. And that's it. That's all we had for this past week because we did a show right after the Xavier game. So
See ya.
Yeah. But we have the DePaul and Marquette games coming up. We'll be back with you after the Marquette game that night. And but I guess why don't we dive in first with Rob? Like, how you doing? What are you doing with all this free time?
Well, lots of things. But first of all, before we jump into that, I don't know if you guys have talked about some previous podcasts. I love the countdown music before we get into this. It got me like in the mood. There's our listeners who can't see it. This, I don't know, whatever apparatus we're using counts down from 30 seconds. Got some jazzy music. I was like pumped to come on the podcast now. So maybe if you guys had that before, I wouldn't have quit. But here we are. So decisions have been made. But anyway, it's good to be back. I missed the fans. They were clamoring for me. I heard there was a lot of fan mail, so I had to stop back in. Yeah, I know it's tough, and I know people loved my hats, so I was going to go no hat, but I figured I'd give people a hat as well. But enough of my rambling. What have I been doing? I mean, Trevor did point this out. I have been tunneling under the city of New York. The NYPD uncovered my doings the past few weeks. For those of you who don't follow New York, like, I don't even know what
it was all over Twitter today. I think you're good. You don't have to go into it.
Yeah, fucking ridiculous.
I think we should spend a lot of time on it, actually. I think no one would get it.
Actually, Rob was building a tunnel from his apartment to Madison Square Garden so he could cut the line to see Villanova St. John's in a few weeks.
There you go.
The Nova Knicks. I need the direct connection. What have I been doing? Well, I guess first and foremost, I have a child on the way, so I guess I've been having sex, so that's cool. So yay that.
Officially one time.
One time. All it takes is one. No, I've got Nicole and I have a baby girl on the way in a few months, so it'll be pretty exciting for that. I heard they're pretty easy and you get a lot of sleep, so it should be pretty cool. So.
A lot of extra
commonly understood with babies.
I should have some more free time to come back after that. But yeah. So I mean that's one big thing. And then other than that, I've been I had a weird professional year. We're gonna gloss over part of that. It's very strange. But I do have something coming down the pipe, which we alluded to at the end of last season. It took a slightly different turn. But I should have in, I think, like 2 months' time. I think we'll have an app out in the marketplace, and we'll see how people react to it. So it should be something cool as well. But yeah, that's my free time. Been having sex once and making a nap, and here I am.
It's coming down the pike if you're a normal person. It's pipe if you're a porn star. So,
well, given the way this conversation
we're
off the rails early.
Yeah, very early off the rails here.
Sounds like we're on the rails. I like
so Rob, have you gotten the chance? Have you watched the game? So you're still
So this is interesting because I was going to point this out. It is interesting now not doing the podcast. Like my perspective on it is different, but I have watched all the games. And Nicole and I have watched all the games together, but it is different. Like my perspective on it in general is like, I'm able to take a little bit of a step back from it, though I am still very much an alarmist because like, what the fuck is our record? Like it's absolutely wild. Like
4-0 in quad 1 games.
Yeah. Like 4-1 in quad 1. Okay, cool. We're like a 2 seed, baby. Like, let's go. Eric Dixon's National Player of the Year. And then, the other games he's not. But yeah, it's been a weird adventure. So I guess my synopsis from not being a podcast host on the regular is still following. This team is like just as frustrating as, I don't know if just as frustrating as last year. That's probably not true. Definitely less frustrating than last year. I'm more hopeful of things just because of the upside that we've seen that I don't think we ever showed at all last year. But I'm still just like, what the fuck is going on with these guys? Like, this is not a good shooting team. Like, we're just not a good shooting team. And unfortunately, our strategy is shoot a lot of shots. So those two things like don't really go well together. But who am I? I'm not really a basketball expert.
Maybe let's start there because that's. I mean, look, there was a lot of names to the game of why we lost to St. John's. Kyle got outcoached. We couldn't shoot for shit, and we didn't play with the level of effort that is needed to play in the Big East, home or away, versus any one of these opponents. So, like, so yeah. What point is like let's talk about the shooting a little bit because Rob, I agree. It's hard to come away with a perspective other than we're not a good shooting team because you are what you are, and we're 15 games into a season. We're halfway through a regular season, and we are just like I mean the statistics are the statistics are terrible. We're 207th in the country in 3-point percentage, 231st percent in 2-point percentage, and yet we shoot the 9th most amount of threes in the country.
It's wild. Absolutely wild. And when you put our combined percentages together, I know you can't do this because it's not like effective field goal. We're like 300 plus. 300 plus. It's so bad I can't even say it. Yeah. Like over 300 in the country. So it's really bad.
Yeah. But the funny thing is that the team is definitely acting as though we are a good shooting team. It just hasn't happened yet, right? Like there's been no adjustments. There's been no adjustments to our offense at all that would indicate that the staff has come away with a conclusion that we are a bad shooting team.
Actually, I will say there are times in certain games when it seems like that, when suddenly, like out of a timeout, they'll go for like 3 layups in a row, or they'll just try to drive the ball down somebody's throat like 3 or 4 times in a row. And it's like, oh, okay, they're making an adjustment. And then it's like, no, 3 ball, brick. So
it's like we did it, but we can't learn our lesson, or we assume that we're going to magically get this 3-point shooting percentage, which this is what drives me nuts, is that like the whole 3-point shooting thing obviously came around more of the advent of like 2015, 2016, as the whole analytics movement shifted towards 3s or more than 2s, But the whole thing is predicated on being able to shoot well. Like if you can't shoot well, the math falls down. Like it just doesn't make as much sense. And it's not, we have historically been a good 3-point shooting team. Obviously 2018 was a historically great 3-point shooting team. But the past few years, in 20 was okay, 21 was okay. The past few years haven't actually been that great. So we're still applying the same strategy, which was developed, 7+ years ago and predicated on a team that shoots threes well. And now it's being applied to a team that just transparently doesn't shoot 3-pointers well. So yeah, at some point you got to say, we should be revisiting this approach instead of just blanket rolling it out because we won 2 natties with it. If the personnel and the results don't justify it, then you got to change something. It's kind of crazy at some point.
So a good change might be to drive the ball down the lane to the cup for a layup, except that we are 350th in the country in terms of getting blocked. Like we get blocked all the fucking time.
That's wild. That's really wild.
Like one of the worst teams in the country. So all of this is to say, we're terrible offensively. We're really bad offensively. I know Ken Pom says 52nd in the country, but like I watch it. This team is terrible offensively.
They forgot a 352nd is what they mean.
It is really hard to watch.
The good news is our defense is really good sometimes.
Yes. When they apply themselves and place the effort, they are really good.
And that defense does help offense when they do get moving and running a little bit. But again, not something we see a whole lot of. They're still trying to play at a snail's pace, which isn't great. Rob. Just because we don't have the Colin Gillespie to knock down a shot after burning 27 seconds of shot clock. does not look good. It was really ugly against St. John's. Felt a lot like I was watching the St. Joe's game again.
St. J.
Yeah, those SJUs. You got to watch out for them. And yeah, I was that hurt. Burton getting blocked back into the locker room hurt. If I could give an anti-alpha dog play of the week or Shaq Fit play of the week, it would probably be that one. Hats off to him for putting the effort in and going for it. But that was
that was brutal.
Met at the summit there, and it was a loud crash and he went right back to the locker room to stretch out. That was just.
It was not a good look.
It was almost something.
It was a smashing block. He was just like, oh yeah, no, he really just like absolutely stuffed that back in your face.
Yeah. I mean, the whole day, St. John's really just played with much more vim and vigor, like much more effort. They just, and you saw it down the stretch where for a second I thought maybe this is just the program punting on this game, but he played Arch like 6, 7, 8 minutes down the stretch of that game. And it was clear that it was not like a punt to lose because they were still trying and fouling and doing all the things that you would try and do if you're trying to make a comeback. No, it was purely done because and I actually give them a little bit of credit for this. They were so pissed at the effort that they had gotten from the team that he puts Arch in to basically say, okay, well, if you're not going to try, then fuck all you guys. Like Arch is going to play for several minutes down the stretch because he actually gives a shit. Right. So like, and it showed. He actually played decent
I thought he gave good minutes.
Yeah, he did get good minutes.
No offense there, but there was no offense anywhere. So it was kind of hard to judge.
And Bamba, to his credit, was one of the other guys who I thought put a pretty good effort in on his birthday. Happy birthday. But like, it was a
happy birthday. Sorry, your party's so lame.
It was a brutal game to watch. I kind of, though, took a step back after watching it. There was a part of me that was like, this team is going to be what it's going to be. Like it is. Willie said it before. He's like, this is the most 8th seed to ever 8th seed. I think good bracketologists have us around 7th right now, but like, it just feels like a team. Rob, I get your optimism from a perspective of talent and what we've seen. We're going to pick off some people who we probably shouldn't. We're going to lose games that we definitely shouldn't.
Oh no, to be clear, I'm not optimistic. It's more just one of those like, you've seen in theory how good. It's funny. So when I was at McKinsey interviews, and when they interview, they test you along certain dimensions. And what they do is they test you once you hit and like show the highest level of aptitude. They're like, oh, well, we're going to score you. You check the highest box. So like, if you looked at Villanova's best games and said, oh, once you check like the highest box, this team will be like a 2 seed. But that's not reality. So I don't know what McKinsey's doing. But point being, like, I'm not grading Villanova like that. I think this team is like absolutely destined for like a first round flame out. Like there's no reason this team is going to get to a second weekend in my mind.
Yeah.
So let's level set there. I am not optimistic about
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Rob, in our Nova Insider chat about a month ago, somebody posted like our bubble chances. And I was like, we're not talking bubble. It's December. That's sad. I was like, we can talk bubble February. But I was like, if we're talking like how things need to fall in December, give up.
Exactly.
You're losing the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're counting that closely now, it's not, you're not on the right side of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible.
But I kind of am resigning in a weird way. I've kind of resigned myself a little bit to like, this is going to be the most, I said in my New Year's resolutions for the team, I said, let's not make this the most frustrating result possible. Like, let's get a definitive answer one way or the other. Like if we're going to suck, let's suck. And so that we can make change.
Yes.
Or let's be really good so that it could prove that what we have is actually good. And then we can move forward with a little bit of confidence going into the next year. And I said, the most likely and the worst possible result is if we just kind of meander. And that's exactly what I feel like we're going to do. I feel like this team is just going to meander to that 8-9 game. Maybe you win it. You probably don't. But if you win, then you're going up against the Purdue, where 2019 Purdue is what's going to happen to us. And we're going to get slaughtered. And it's not going to be good. But like, that's how it feels at the moment. at the moment. Could that change? Of course it could change. Of course it could change. There's enough talent on the roster that it could theoretically change. Could the coaching staff be right about their big bet? Because that's what it is. It's a humongous bet. You're putting chips in the middle of the table and hope that you hit straight flush off the turn in the river on your shooting percentage. That like, hey, we're going to fucking do this. And we are going to all of a sudden start hitting a lot more threes. And maybe that all happens. And if it does, then credit to them. But it doesn't feel like it sitting here on January 9th before we're about to play DePaul before the hardest 5-game stretch of the season. It does not feel like that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. What are you, and again, for our listeners, I apologize since I would say I've been part of the podcast regularly. In terms of what you guys, so just cut me off if like you guys have talked about this all season, but like, what are
That's
we
enough.
banking? Okay. Yeah. What are we banking on for this potential turnaround? Like, is it, I mean, I just don't even know at this point. Like, I know Bloody, like we talked about, you're like big on Longino, but like, I don't know, Longino just kind of makes a lot of bad decisions and I don't know, disappears for times. Like, what is it?
The hope has been regression to the mean, but unfortunately we're seeing that the mean is a lot worse than we thought it was. So everybody's banking on like, oh yeah, like the 3-point shooting will level out, but the level is much, much, much lower than we anticipated. It's that's what I can say, at least. Like that's been kind of the calling card. Also, that we joke about it, regression to the mean, but the mean is bad.
Well,
Yeah,
I think
we're going to regression to the mode now.
Yeah, I'm looking at like player by player, and like granted, a lot of guys are down on their 3-point percentage on this year relative to other years. Like Housen's down, Dixon's like down significantly. Like he's down 4
more
points,
volume.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I mean that's fair. And then
Hausen in his defense, like what did he take? Like 20 shots last year?
Yeah.
Fair. So this is
well,
his first real
Bomba's
year.
Down, Burton's
down 4.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
I mean,
they're all down. They're all shooting poorly.
No, I know. Yeah. I'm not trying to, give anybody a defense here. It's just been miserable. But
Justin Moore hasn't done shit the past few games. Like, doesn't even show up.
It's like he's not even out there.
Like, I just don't understand it. Guy's fucking not doing anything. It's ridiculous.
So I do think that there are some like things that can be fixed. But if you're calling card of what's the hope that you've seen so far that is actually repeatable that the team can do is when the team plays with good effort, as we talked about, the defense is really good. The defense is borderline elite when they play with great effort. So if you can get that effort time in, night out, you're at least going to put yourself in a position to win some games. So that's the hope, right? That is based in some level of reality that we've seen so far. Now, in terms of like what the program can do, what Kyle Neptune can do, what the coaching staff can do to actually potentially see better results on the floor from a shooting and other perspective is I think we're at the point in the season where the rotations need to get cleaned up. Like the minutes allocations need to get tightened up. We've belabored this point on this podcast several times about it just being way too willy-nilly, guys getting pulled out after 2 minutes after, from the start of the game. No one's in a flow, etc. I think Kyle, to the chagrin of someone or multiple people on the team, is going to have to start cutting minutes differently. And I also am at the point at this moment in the season where I think that we need a starting lineup shakeup. Obviously more comes back that'll shake up the starting lineup a little bit. We don't know when that is going to be, although some people think that it's going to be on the road trip on the road trip to Marquette. But forgetting Moore for just a second, just placing him aside, I think the starting lineup needs to shake up. And I think where my head's at is that Hakeem Hart, who has been really good in a lot of different respects, I think he needs to be in the starting lineup over Tyler Burton right now. And that's not a shit talk necessarily on Tyler Burton.
Not yet, but
it's more of a good comment to Hart, but Hart has outplayed him.
Yes.
And if you're just going to take Burton out of the game or someone else out of the game after 2 minutes of putting Hart, just start hard, right? Like get him into the flow of the offense, get him going right away from the onset. Finally, if you're not going to have or trust Mark with a starting role on this team, then when Moore does come back, I think Longino should actually stay in the starting lineup. And I think Moore should replace Mark. And again, not a comment at Mark. I actually think Mark would excel and help this team a little bit more if he was that change of pace guy off the bench. Like, I mean, Rob, you brought up the 2018 team, and obviously this is not the 2018 team, but like DiVincenzo was to the 2018 team, where he came off the bench for sometimes Brunson and could move the ball differently, was just a totally different change of pace.
Obviously.
Corey Fisher on the 2009 team played the 6 starter role, and he was a change of pace off of Scotty Reynolds. And like, I think that is what I genuinely think that's what this team needs, is they need to bring the speed boy off the bench to change the pace up a little bit. Those are the concrete things that I think need to happen in order to actually get some benefit here.
You can't put Mark on the bench though, obviously, until Justin's back, because otherwise, like the level of creation on this team is lacking.
Not even creation, terribly. Just getting the ball past midcourt. Now we're not even talking creation.
Competence.
We're talking getting the ball into the offensive zone of the court. Like, we saw what happened against Xavier. It was pathetic. The loudest cheers of the night were when Kyle finally gave up and put Mark in to handle the ball in the last minute of the game. Like, it was just ridiculous.
Yeah. It's terrible.
So, yes, agree on all those points, Chris. I would say either Burton or Longino should probably lose their spot to Hart when Hart and Justin. If you want to keep Mark in there, if not, leave Longino in. He does that thing where he'll take like 6 turnaround jumpers, layup hybrids.
Yo, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, his decision making's not been
insane. Like, absolutely insane.
He has to start playing like a quarterback.
Show that toughness that got him.
Yeah. No, so that's just like his go-to. Like, when we have no offense, he just dribbles into the paint, picks up his dribble, and pivots around until he can force up a layup. And I think he and Mark are both better suited just that, like, one dribble into the arc, pull up mid-range game. Somebody can look up the numbers if they really care, but just from the eye test, like, that ball goes in the hoop. And the other way around, we get blocked. So it's, I don't know. I'd rather them miss jumpers than get blocked on layups.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like a bastardization of the jump stop strategy, right? Like, Villanova for so many years got credit. It's like, oh, you drive into the lane, you jump stop, you pivot, you dance all around, and Brunson still gets credit for that in the NBA because he does it like a fucking boss, right? And now it's like we kind of lost the teaching element of that, and it's just like driving to the lane. What am I doing? I don't know, but I'm gonna turn the ball over. Like, that's not the same thing. Like, not at all. You just kind of forgot the important half of that. But okay, sure.
A lot of this does, again, it's a lot caused by the fact that we're a terrible 3-point shooting team. Like, the back downs in the post, one of the reasons why that works is because you can't necessarily double up on a guy who's in the post, a guard in the post, because the threat is that he could pass out of the post to a wide open 3-point shooter. But when you fucking suck at 3-point shooting, like, then you're going to get doubled down low, which is going to force turnovers. Like, the offense that we're playing, which this is the other problem, is that we're 15 games in, which we know now that we're probably not a good 3-point shooting team. We're almost definitely not a good 3-point shooting team. The problem is that this is how we've practiced. This is how the entire team's built. Everything's built around this. So how could you just go out and wholesale change the offense right now? Like, you really can't. So a lot of my solutions, if you will, are based in like rhythm type stuff where, hey, the 7-8 players who are actually going to get real minutes on this team, get them the real minutes on this team so that they could establish some rhythm. And hopefully, just on rhythm alone, you start to see a 1, 2, 3 point percentage lift in 3-point shooting, which would still place us as not good, but that would be a hell of a lot better. And we probably would have won a couple more games in our schedule had we been 1, 2, 3 points percentage wise better at 3-point shooting.
No, it's true. I mean, like if you look at, you have to check the scores on it, but if you reduce a couple of those Longino drive into the lane, turn it over, or we're just like taking up a dumb contested shot, and you convert those to a couple of points because there's some better decision making, there's a little bit better flow, then a few of our games have just been decided by a couple of possessions. So I think there's some validity to it. Does it solve all the issues? No, absolutely not. But yeah, I think it's certainly a logical thing to do.
Yeah, and to be clear, that's not just a Longino thing. Like everybody does it.
It's just a Longino thing, Trevor.
I don't want. Yeah, no, it's
we found our villain.
Yeah, somebody tag him right now. Yeah. But it's just like the way that things have been going, and it's just not going well. I'm like sad today. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so weird because if I told you at this moment in time in the season, after the UCLA game, but before Big East play started, that after 4 games of the Big East, we'd be 3-1 in conference and at least tied for, if not have the best record in conference, you'd be like, okay, that's good. I'd probably sign up for that. Except
the most frustrating 3-1 to exist.
and that's exactly what this whole team has been this whole season. Yeah. It was the most frustrating 6-4 team that I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
Look, Friday versus DePaul, which should present an opportunity to get right. We'll talk about that a little bit, but something's got to get figured out soon because that 5-game stretch, and we talked about this. This is like we're almost to the finish of like the first quadrant of games being done. Quadrant's maybe a bad term, but the first layer of game, whatever you want to call it, the first tranche of games being done. That second tranche at Marquette, home versus Connecticut, at St. John's, at Butler, home versus Marquette. There is a non-zero chance that the team goes 0-5 in that stretch.
Well, that would be good.
Non-zero. If the team, I really mean this, and we talked about.
I know. I'm agreeing with you. I'm laughing through the pain.
I really mean this. If the team goes 2-3 in that stretch, color me optimistic, because 2-3 in that stretch would actually be a very good result. Because KenPom has us losing. KenPom has us losing the first 3 of those games. Marquette, Connecticut, at St. John's, beating Butler and Marquette away and home by 1 apiece. So those are 2 coin flips. So being 2-3 in that stretch would actually be an improvement above what KenPom, with the statistics play out. 3-2 in that stretch would be borderline miraculous. And so something has to get figured out offensively and suit. I mean, you could defend the shit out of teams till kingdom come, but that's what Virginia did back in the day, and they lost to a 16 seed in the first round. So, like, if you can't score the ball, like, you're going to run into trouble.
When is Justin coming back? I think you may have said this earlier, and I just wasn't paying
There's
attention.
no official word, obviously. There's never anything
Why did you think you would know?
Until he suits up. But the rumor that I heard is Monday against Marquette.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's a rumor, unconfirmed.
Yeah.
Source is dead to me if it's not true.
What did he actually do? See, this is now you're getting the perspective of the fan who's like casually paying attention.
Knee sprain. I don't know. Nothing official. Just
that's what I thought. I was like, I don't know.
He's
It's
just
the vaguest shit ever. He's just hurt. His fucking ego's hurt.
He got hurt on Tuesday, December 5th. We're basically a full-blown 5 weeks. Yeah, we are. We're exactly 5 weeks from the day when he got hurt. And there has been no news other than he's day-to-day. Sorry. Being out for 5 weeks is not fucking
day-to-day. That's not day-to-day.
That's not day-to-day.
No. Like, look, if you're going to start getting frustrated about that, we have a long history of Villanova basketball to discuss. Like, that's how they handle every injury. Phil Booth, when he sat an entire season with tendonitis or whatever it was and had to get the surgery,
he was redshirting, and it was day-to-day.
He was redshirting day-to-day. So,
Well, he also got that non-COVID related illness that nobody really wanted to talk about.
Yeah, he got sick.
Gonorrhea.
Meningitis. Like, what are we talking about? How serious is the disease that he clearly got?
Yeah. Everybody was getting
On
sick
the bench.
last week after New Year's. Maybe he had a crazy New Year's party and everybody super spreader.
Super spreader.
another
But it's not
He had a
COVID,
non-COVID
so,
illness called
You
called
can
the
get it.
coronavirus.
Better
It was
than
the
disease.
coronavirus.
I
Maybe
had
it's like a
Yeah,
chicken
cool.
pox party where like you get your kids together that have chicken pox, then everybody gets it.
Dude, Brian, you're dating yourself. Nobody gets chicken pox now.
Really?
No, because they have the vaccine. We were
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
the
so
we were like,
I'm talking
we were
about
like
vaccines,
the
okay.
end of
Thank
it.
God Rob's here. We can start talking about vaccinations and science.
We're
That's
not getting
right.
vaccinated out here on the main line, bro. That's a New York thing.
Yeah.
Bill Gates shooting all the kids up.
Don't get me
Vinyl
started about your
farms.
5G cellular service.
Yeah, 5G bats.
Yeah.
That's why we dig tunnels.
Yeah. I was just going to say, the grounding's real, the tunnels are real, the 5G is real.
Tunnels are real.
Anyway,
Welcome back to the Full 40, a
yeah.
conspiracy theory podcast.
yes. Do we want to
Hey, that shit gets listens, by the way.
do we want to ad break
Oh,
real
yeah.
quick before discussing DePaul and further implications down the road?
Yes, let's hear Trevor read it
All
out.
right. Brian? Today's episode of the Full 40 is brought to you by Homefield Apparel. Homefield produces some of the best quality vintage collegiate apparel on the market. You won't find better game day gear anywhere else. Homefield has the ultimate collection of old school logos and looks with the best quality around. Shop t-shirts, crew necks, hoodies, bomber jackets, and more at homefieldapparel.com. Don't forget to use code NOVAINSIDER for 15% off your first purchase. That's code NOVAINSIDER at homefieldapparel.com. So,
Sorry, I was on InfoWars, so I
no,
was
you're good. So I will say, just to piggyback off of the very natural home field ad, anytime I've been in public with my bomber jacket, I get compliments from everybody, and I never get compliments. So just one final push, buy the jacket. I had UConn fans coming up to me, and I sent it in the group chat. I know UConn is not a blue blood or elite because they do not have a storefront, and therefore they do not have a bomber jacket. So
They absolutely do have a home field.
I couldn't find it.
No, I'm 100% certain.
Oh, they do?
They have a
Okay.
home field.
Well, they don't have a bomber jacket, so we got
I think they
that
do
on them.
too. I think they
Trevor's like, I opened up
Confirming
Chrome
it.
and it wasn't there.
we
You
are.
guys
Hey,
saw
we're
all
sticking
figured
to
out.
it. Trevor
I'm
is
sticking to
just
it, yeah.
spreading
Show me the
misinformation. on
jacket.
this
Show me
topic.
the jacket. Yeah, show me the
Trevor-
vaccination
On
word.
the
Show me the jacket. But yes, the bomber jackets are still hot. The dad hats are hot. Everything's great. Use that code.
They have a bubble stripped bomber jacket.
Yeah.
It actually looks fucking cool. With
Trevor,
the red.
did you look this up in your encyclopedia and it wasn't there?
Yes.
Or like, was it your
Well,
Sears
I
catalog?
showed.
Maybe? I don't know.
So I was out. I showed the UConn fan the website, and I was like, I don't know if you'd be under U for University of Connecticut or C for Connecticut. And he said, "Oh, I'll look for it." And then he's like, "I can't find the jacket." So I give.
It's literally there.
Yeah, I blame him for that. And I was
So you did
operating
what
under-
Walheim did to me, where he told me to read his tweet. And I looked at it for 1 second. And goes, "Oh, that's funny." And he goes, "You didn't read it." It's like, no.
Exactly. Might have put my. It's not the first time I'll put my foot in my mouth here. It is certainly not the last.
Dude, I might buy this UConn one. Plus, they just won the national championship again last night. I don't know if you saw, but all their fans were celebrating that Michigan won where they won. You know?
Where we won.
Michigan, I mean, UConn fans last night were congratulating themselves on winning at NRG Stadium while Michigan won.
I don't understand.
I know, neither did I, but they were
That's a pretty
celebrating.
cool jacket. I'm not gonna
That's
lie.
a cool jacket.
I'm saying, dude. Imagine rocking that to your like
I
MAGA
might
move.
get one.
Just actively
All right.
prove.
So-
Trevor wrong.
Yeah. Well, no, it's Mikey from the bar. Yeah, you were wrong, Mikey. Sorry. Anyway, back to reality. So DePaul.
Yeah, we're not gonna. I mean,
We're not talking
We
DePaul.
have to win.
Yeah.
We have.
You got to
to
win. You got to blow them out. You got to show
Yeah.
up. You got to be loud. Just effort and energy from the start will be an improvement.
I My God, they're terrible again.
They're really bad. Rob.
This is
Not much has changed.
They are Rob. They're borderline
worse.
the worst team
They're
that's
worse.
ever been in the conference.
They almost beat
It's
Georgetown
bad.
the other night.
I know, I saw that. Georgetown sucks too. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I feel like DePaul the past few years has been like, oh, flirting around 500. They usually get, they give themselves an easy non-con. They come in, they're like, oh, we're hot. These guys just suck.
Yeah, they're really bad.
Holy shit.
So
3-11.
it's now
It's
like
terrible.
Big East Roulette has 2 bullets in the chamber now because it's Georgetown and DePaul.
Yeah. It's also really weird from a perspective of bracketology, because at this very moment, a lot of bracketologists have as many as 7 Big East teams in the NCAA tournament because of Seton Hall's somewhat miraculous schedule early. They scraped out a win tonight versus Georgetown before we jumped on, but it's been a borderline miraculous appearance so far, beating UConn and Marquette at home and winning at Providence. So Seton Hall has jumped all the way into the bubble conversation and on the right side of the bubble as well. St. John's is kind of with us, similar area to us in terms of being in tournament 7-8 type seed. And then you have, UConn and Marquette and Creighton are all solidly in. And then I'm forgetting who the other one is off the top of my head. Providence, of course. So right now at this very moment, you have 7 Big East teams who are right there for the tournament. Xavier and Butler are outside looking in pretty significantly. And then you have DePaul and Georgetown. So where it kind of comes to is it's super roulette, Trevor, to your point, is that those teams have to have the Big East kind of needs DePaul and Georgetown to have 1 win apiece, and that's versus each other at each other's home court. It basically needs. Sorry, what?
That's well, no.
They both need to go.
Okay. I was like, well, somebody's going to win the game, Chris.
Yeah, right. They both need to go 1-19.
Yes, I understand. Yes,
right.
It just took me a second.
This is the helpful part of having a really bad drag on your conference, is that if they can effectively lose all their games, then that actually becomes a help, because everyone gets an extra W, and everyone goes home happy, and they would have done their job for the conference. Whereas if DePaul and Georgetown start winning games, that's actually terrible. It's the worst possible result for the conference, because Xavier and Butler are going to beat teams. We might lose to Butler, but Xavier and Butler are going to beat teams because they're good enough to win. So what ends up happening is that you can't have the cannibalization come from the bottom. It has to come from the middle.
That makes sense conceptually. I get what you're saying. Have you guys talked about Cooley? I don't want to spend too much time because this isn't a cool.
Yeah, let's. I'm happy to talk about it.
Oh God,
it's not a good first year.
It's not looking great so far.
No.
I don't know if he's mailing it in or what, but yikes.
Georgetown should look at a real coach like Kyle Neptune.
It feels like
Tracy's.
It feels like Ed Cooley came in and said, "Well, this is obviously a god awful situation
Right
I'm
off. Yeah.
So I'm going to punt on this year, and we're going to rebuild the old fashioned way, right? Type of thing," which is hilarious because Ed Cooley was portal guy numero uno, going into getting hired at Georgetown. And so if I was a Georgetown fan, I was thinking to myself, and having talked to many Georgetown fans, they were thinking to themselves, we got the portal guy. He's going to come in and bring all this talent in via the portal. And we're going to be, I don't think anyone thought tournament level year one, although it's kind of weird because Pitino was expected to make the tournament in year one, but Ed Cooley was not.
He's a good coach.
Yeah. but it's a fair point. But they definitely thought that it was going to be a somewhat competitive team. This team could potentially be a 7th in the Big East type year, 8th in the Big East type season. If cards broke the right way, they would have won some games, been competitive, they still have a stretch run to have, but like down the stretch, actually start picking teams off and showing signs of life for the program. That has not happened. This team has been straight out bad. It is very clear that they had no intention this season of being any sort of competitive, because Ed Cooley didn't fill out the roster. That was like the big thing. He didn't fill out the full roster. He's got like 5-6 walk-ons on the team. I might be exaggerating a little bit, but I'm not exaggerating much. So like they don't have enough players. Like, and they had some injuries. Jaden Epps got hurt, etc. Like they don't have enough depth, like on real basketball players. Not just depth from like a talent standpoint. They don't have enough depth on real basketball players to actually like take on that many injuries.
Well,
so
they stink. Whatever. It's enough time on Georgetown. It's Georgetown.
But you wanted. Have we talked about it?
I want to talk I wanted to allocate like a minute or two. And Georgetown sucks, and Cooley sucks in his first year. So fuck him. Let's go.
Yeah. That game that he goes back to Providence will still be the highest grossing ticket sales of the year, I think, outside of like a Taylor Swift concert in the Amp. But it's it's nice. It's good to see. It's good to see the conference win one there. Just like everybody feels good about that, I think. But we have a real game on Monday, which is Marquette. What are we feeling like here? We're gonna have Chris Notaro in the building.
Yes, as per usual, he is always at that Marquette game. Boots on the ground. Look, I mean, with Marquette, you kind of know what you're getting because they're rolling basically out the same team that they had last year, minus Omax Prosper.
More questions this year, though. Like last year, we were all pretty certain that Tyler Kolek could read. This year, that's been drawn into question more than once, it seems.
Good old Dangly Sack from Providence Twitter, just ruining that guy's whole night. Rob, did you follow this story at all?
I think I saw a little bit of it.
It's a pretty niche story. I think we would do our listeners a favor by going into it a little bit.
Do it. Educate me.
So I don't know exactly how it all started, but I
can tell you how it happened, actually, how it started at least, and then you can come in with the Providence bit. So Marquette tweeted their team GPA, as it's always a great idea to do that, and saying how we had this many players above a 3.2 or whatever, pick whatever 3.0, whatever number you want to say. And they had pictures of a lot of the players that had it, but they didn't, they had 8 guys or 9 guys above a 3.0, but they didn't have room in the graphic for 8 or 9 guys. And one of the notable holdouts was Kolek. So somebody was like, Tyler Kolek can't read. And he replied to that tweet with
somebody being a guy by the name of @Dangly Sack on Twitter.
So Kolek bites and replies with a picture of his transcript for the semester.
Oh God, what?
And that devolved into, it took this many credits and this long for Marquette to teach you how to read. Okay, all right. And then Chris, you could take it from there.
It just went back and forth, and because he bit, like you knew he saw it, and there was a Barstool article about it.
Oh God!
And then it became, and then he was at Providence, and it was right after their break started. But like I don't know, they call the students staying a little extra, call it quote unquote the stay.
Yeah,
it got everyone amped up, and they all stayed. And so the student section was actually wild, even though it was a break game. And they were all giving him hell the entire game, and they absolutely throttled. I mean, Providence won by 15 at the end.
I also, today, I saw, it was probably the same guy. I saw a tweet of a picture of a koozie that said, Tyler Kolek can't read.
Did the student section do a "you can't read" chant? Because if they didn't, that's just like an absolute miss. Like that's
there was
like
definitely some things.
I mean, it's got to be. It's just like it's such a great chant. You can't read. So
can he read?
I think
has he confirmed that? Like a chapter of a Harry Potter book, or like something. Like
somebody tweeted from his account, so somebody who has access to his account can read.
You can
Yeah.
voice text. You guys know
That's
that.
not,
I
that's
spell
not
everything
proof.
right.
That's
But
not
then
proof.
because
I
he
need a video
posted
of
his-
him reading.
Because he posted his transcript, then people pulled it apart because it was like
Yeah.
basket weaving and like all
Yeah.
the crap fucking classes. So people were all over it. So anyway,
Never
The
post your
school-
transcript.
so we're playing
Was
on
it
Monday.
better than the old Villain of a Player website?
Oh my God.
Yes.
We talked about it last year, but not
Shane
with
Clark.
Shane Clark?
Shane Money Clark.
Shane
Like,
Clark. What's his cat's name? I can't remember.
You're looking for it
It's
right
not
now.
up anymore. You can get like a cached version.
Yeah,
of it.
you can find somebody who has referenced it. It's like
It's pretty good.
somebody's like it's like historically great websites, like athlete websites. It's archived somewhere.
So Monday we're playing the Derek Zoolander Center for Kids Who Can't Read Good
Golden Eagles.
and who want to do other good stuff too. Marquette Golden Eagles. Tyler Kolek obviously is the headline player. Oso Ighodaro has had a really solid year. And Cam Jones has also been really good. I mean, like it's like pretty much the same Marquette team. They've gotten some additional contributions from their deeper bench. A guy named Ben Gold, a 6'11" guy who could also shoot the three. Who's been pretty solid for them. They've had David Joplin, who's been good. So like it's like the same team that you've seen from
And they're
last
coming
year.
off a loss.
They
to
are.
Seton Hall, a close loss to Seton Hall away, right? It was
Yes, but they do play Butler tomorrow.
Okay. So we have a cleanser in between. So hopefully they use that for their revenge game, and then our defense and energy travels.
Yeah.
We know our offense isn't going to travel.
Oh
Rob,
our offense travels. It's non-existent. So like
Yeah.
you bring a zero somewhere, it's still a zero.
That's
It's fine.
fair.
Brian,
We're a little
Rob,
better
you're
on the
saying-
road. We are better on the road.
Here's something you haven't weighed in on. A Marquette fan kind of came at a UConn fan saying they had a better season last year because they won both the Big East regular season title and
That's right.
the conference title.
The Big
So
East
their
is much
season
more
trumped
difficult to win.
UConn. So as a fan of a basketball team, would you take the double Big East championship over the Natty?
I mean, obviously, I come from
Yeah,
a
okay.
J-Wright school. If we play for all of the titles, Thanksgiving tournament title, regular season
Yeah.
title, Big
Big
East
Five.
title, and then if we're lucky, we get into the tournament. That's not what we play for, though. We play for the accumulation of titles, and we just
Right.
want to be the best that we can be. So,
At
Marquette
titles.
was the best that they can be more times than UConn was the best that they can be. So
Oh.
therefore, Marquette is the superior team. It's just math.
I did see a Marquette fan attack a UConn fan last week by being like, "You're not elite in the conference. You finished 5th last year." I was like, "This is just so good." Like, thank you.
It's wild because the Marquette fans keep hammering it, and it's
I
dumb
know.
as fuck.
Just
They are
like,
so serious too.
Yeah.
take your W and your L and go home. Like you got
Yeah.
you got your conference title, which you've like never had before. That's great. Like just go celebrate it and shut the fuck up.
Yeah, don't insult the team that won the national championship.
Yeah,
like
what
you
are
have
What are you talking
9 other
about?
teams in the conference to choose from.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That
It's
is,
absolutely ridiculous.
Very reminiscent of, I don't know if many did this, but Seton Hall fans being like, "Oh, well, we won the Big East tournament that
Oh my
year."
God.
It's like we hit the most famous shot in the history of
Cool.
college basketball.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or when they say they
Later.
won the Final Four in 2020
I mean,
because COVID stopped them.
Right.
Oh.
what do you
Yes.
expect from Marquette? They let 88% of the people who apply into the school.
They can't read.
We are.
We're
we are
really
throwing
hammering
mud.
the
We are
academic.
throwing mud because we have nothing positive to
We
say
have
about our
We all think that we're going to lose this game at Marquette
Oh, yeah, I know.
on
Yeah.
Monday.
I can't say it. I will
Yeah.
continue to make incorrect predictions.
Yeah, well, like to be clear, we're gonna lose, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Look, it's
someone
not
who
like
isn't me might say that.
Yeah. It's not like there's like a clear pattern in Marquette losses. Like they lost to Purdue on a neutral court, which is obviously excusable. They lost to Wisconsin. All the other games that they've lost have been away. They got hit pretty hard by Wisconsin and Providence away. Wisconsin's actually really good. Providence in that mini stretch before Bryce Hopkins got hurt was really good. And Seton Hall obviously has been a stretch where they've been playing really well. So like, but there's no like, oh, you slow them down from a tempo standpoint, whatever. Rob, are you okay, man? What's going on?
I'm sorry. I found a website that had some of the description of Shane Clark's website. So
I'm like talking about the game, like not saying anything funny, and Rob's just cracking
I
up.
was cracking up. Sorry.
Yeah, like they haven't like. There's no like oh, you gotta slow them down to win. Like we will slow them
control
down.
the pace against them.
Yeah, like you
That's
do have to control.
I mean, well, look, the only like the glimmer of hope we have is that potentially Justin's coming back that game. That should shorten the rotation. That should help with the rotation by maybe taking minutes away from people who don't necessarily need that many. But it could also bring us back to the hockey shifts. I don't know.
Marquette, Brian. Marquette was better last year than they are this year, in my view, at least from a regular season standpoint. I think they'll break through to the second weekend this year. Like they should have gotten there last year. I think they just had like a all world bad game and worst time for it. That being said, like we actually played them decently tight in both games last year. Obviously, there was the New Year's Eve game last year at home where like we were right there. But the Rob, I fucking hate you. But the game away, we were also in that game all the way until like the very end where I think they free throw and executed down the stretch to get like a 9-point win. So like you could kind of harp on that, like last year's worst team for us and their better team. Like we still held our own away. So if we control pace, like the game should be relatively close. And if you make plays down the stretch, you win a game. I just don't see that happening. If they beat Butler at home, we beat DePaul so that we can both cleanse from the recent losses. And it's kind of like a fair play game on a midday game on Martin Luther King Day. Yeah, anything can happen, but I'm not counting this one for a win.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty flippant about us losing. Like, obviously, we've beat some good teams. Like, the potential's there. We'll see what Justin Justin obviously is a difference maker. Yeah. Maybe coming back. Even if he comes back, he's probably not going to be in game shape realistically, or he'll be in game shape for 20 minutes instead of 30 or 35. So I don't know that what you're going to get from that. So the upside's there. I don't know that we'll have all the pieces clicking there. So I don't expect a win from that. If Justin was back for, a week or a week and a half at that point, and he was kind of worked back into the rotation, I may have a different answer. But that's not the case. Creighton
outstrips Marquette by 1 spot on Ken Palm right now. So there you go. There's your hope. That's your hope. Creighton's a little bit better per advanced metrics than Marquette at the moment, and we beat Creighton at their place. That's all I got.
Super strange.
And you never know if Tyler Kolek can see that the shot clock is going down, because he might not be able to read
numbers.
He can't read numbers either. Oh God, it's amazing.
So this is the interesting, because we're on the border of the two tranche, the first tranche ending and the second tranche. So look, if we get to 4-1 in this tranche here, we beat DePaul, right? Like we better beat DePaul, and then you get to the Marquette game. If you win that game, then the outlook does change a little bit on the season, or you can allow yourself some visions of grandeur, if you will, because then in that next stretch, you kind of have to go 500 down that 4-game stretch, that difficult 4-game stretch, and it takes a lot of pressure off. That's really it. Like, you beat Marquette at home, like you've pretty much taken a ton of pressure off. At their place, You've taken a lot of pressure off the season, because you've got to get another big time quad 1 win under your belt, and by that point, with 5 quad 1 wins, you'd already have the quad 1 resume to make the tournament, and so then go out and just win some games and actually improve your seed line.
That's all we do. We just win quad one games.
That's the hope, right? The hope is that we've won all the quad 1 games.
If they pull this out against Marquette, the meter immediately flips from distraught back to cocky, and
just to get humbled by Connecticut.
So over to we're so back. So again, I don't know how we would be able to control the pace really without Justin back and Effective being back. We don't know if he will be back. So it's just a lot of who knows. Really not much to lose here, except our perfect record in quad 1 games. But I don't know. It definitely like we said after the Creighton win, if you win here, it sets us up nicely to kind of, like you said, take pressure off the back end of the schedule. And then you beat Marquette 1 out of 2. You don't have to beat UConn 1 out of 2. You know, it takes pressure off those other games and kind of gives an opportunity for some mistakes and bumps in the road down the line.
I do have a couple of points that you could point to. They're not a great They're not a great rebounding team.
Neither are we.
Yeah, right. Correct. That's my point. Is that some of the advantages that other teams have exposed, like Xavier down the stretch, right. St. John's, obviously, like they're not a great rebounding team. I believe we have a size advantage at most positions. So theoretically, if they're not hitting their best from a shooting standpoint, which they're not actually the best 3-point shooting team either. They're actually just a smidge better than us from a 3-point shooting percentage. Just take less of them, which is smart and intelligent if you're not a great 3-point shooting team. They are really good at twos, really good 2-point shooting team, and they're a decent free throw team, not bad.
You know what this is setting up though, Chris? Our game plan is going to be, let's make them shoot threes, and they're going to make 54% of their threes.
Oh, yes, of course. Of course.
Now that we've spoken it into existence.
But stylistically, my point is, they stylistically should not bother us too much. They definitely play a little bit up tempo, but we deal with that. So
it's like a practice in the Davis Center against A team versus B team.
Right. And the player by player, like the Dixon Iguodaro matchup, I take Dixon.
Yeah.
But because he's my guy, but I'm sure a Marquette podcast would say I take Iguodaro. But Dixon's been better this year for sure. And if Justin's back, then that can hopefully neutralize Kolek a little bit more. It's the supporting cast after that where I think Marquette's got a bit of a leg up. They get better contributions from guys like Cam Jones and Sean Jones and Joplin. So we'll see. Obviously, an even match on the sidelines between Kyle Neptune and Shaka Smart. So,
well, are they the sidelines or are they?
Yeah, good point.
No, that was
the pain extended.
Yeah,
so that was absolutely nuts.
It was pretty funny. I had to explain to the people around me why Patino getting called for that. I called it encroachment. Why he got that warning for being on the court was so funny to me because he was maybe a foot on the court where Shaka played an entire possession of defense a couple weeks ago.
Insane.
So that was funny. So
yeah, if you haven't seen it,
if you can keep Shaka on the bench,
you
have a chance.
Dude is if you haven't seen this clip, go check it out because Shaka's basically coach is up and down the sidelines, but so the possession comes to their half. And he's basically, I don't know, the ball swings to his sideline. He's basically in the face of whoever was handling the ball.
It was Shireman. It was Baylor Shireman.
It was ridiculous. And he was moving up and up and down the court with him. I was like, what the fuck is he doing? It was crazy. He was waving his hands all around like he does. And it's just somehow he got a pass on that. I don't know how. It's kind of weird.
It was batshit.
Yeah, whatever.
Do
you guys do heart monitors still?
We
We
can.
We haven't done one in a long time.
Yeah, we actually have not been. We've been focused on.
Yeah, let me shoot from the hip a little bit here.
Dude,
Jalen Brunson's been absolutely unbelievable. He's brought a bona fide all-star.
Brunson was a multiple-time player of the week since we've last talked about. Multiple-time player of the week. He might have had a player of the month. If I'm making that up, I'm making that up. But
would be the first time on this podcast.
Yeah, they just blew the Trailblazers out tonight. Jalen had a lower scoring night than usual just because they were up so much, so he didn't have to play. But he should be an all-star. if not a starter, he'll definitely be a reserve.
He's probably going to be a reserve just because, like,
Yeah,
he's
the
getting-
Knicks
he's
not
fan
getting
base
shit for
is
fan
not
vote.
voting much, and I
Yeah.
know that's only 50% of it. But Jalen Brunson is an all-star this year. Willie would want us to mention that Dante has been playing better since he's been slotted into the starting lineup. He had a big night a couple games ago. Mikal Bridges is over in France right now, trying to drag the Nets to relevancy. They're playing the Cavs in France tonight.
Wait, are they really?
Yeah.
Oh shit! I didn't even realize that.
I don't know why the Spurs didn't go over, but
It seems like a miss.
so
Yeah, that's definitely a
Mikal
miss.
has kind of a shot at an all-star nod, I would say. Just the votes
No
aren't
way.
the fan votes aren't there. I'm saying so there ends up being a ridiculous number of all-stars every year due to injuries sustained by the selected group. So I think if it's a bad thing to wish, but like Mikal has an outside chance of being selected as an injury replacement to an all-star just because if an East forward goes down or something like that, they'll say, okay, Mikal Bridges has been playing great. It's kind of like a career achievement to this point too, just because he was so solid last year too. And I think he's someone that they would want to try to bring in as they kind of select like these next gen players to try to bring in for these injury replacements. So he has a chance.
He's
Josh
got a
Hart's been
chance.
playing well. Double last night or 2 nights ago. I can't remember. Everybody plays for the Knicks. The Knicks are doing well this season.
Yeah, the heart monitor is easy. It's just the Knicks and the Nets.
The
Like,
Knicks are
that's
doing
it.
well. The Nets are Mikal's playing well. Cam Whitmore is putting together like a list of bodies that he is just obliterating in his fast break dunks and broken play dunks. He's been playing really well in space for this Rockets team. That's been a surprise so far this season. Averaging 10 or 12 minutes a game, scoring that, if not more. He's an offensive machine, which is really cool to see him playing in space and just like the added speed of the NBA is really beneficial to his game. Trying to think who else.
Whatever. It's a Brunson show.
I know.
Brunson
The headline
is
yeah.
Brunson is the 13th leading scorer in the NBA. Like 13 is like a random number, but the fact that he's top 15 in the NBA is absolutely absurd. He's also top 15 in assists, and he's leading the fucking biggest market in the country. And he's basically like like all the Knicks fans are just like all over him. It's absolutely insane. He's literally, his face is all over MSG.
He's legitimately like, look, no one's Derek Jeter, but after Aaron Judge, he is like the face of New York sports. Right? Like,
yeah, after him and Zach Wilson, and then it's
yeah.
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers wasn't because he's the face of the Pat McAfee show, other than the guy who sits there and doesn't fucking talk the entire time.
Charles Oakley.
No, but Bly's right. Like Brunson is basically it in New York sports right now.
Yeah,
he's just like, he's fucking amazing.
Which exactly as we all thought it would be. First of all,
I absolutely did not. I was totally wrong on this. I will admit.
Rob, did you buy the Julius Randle, Jalen Brunson jersey left to right?
I have the
MSG had with their jerseys the whole 9/11 move hanging up at MSG, which is smart.
Oh my gosh.
RJ Barrett.
I know.
I don't have that. I did get a Brunson jersey for Christmas actually, which is fun. I should have worn that tonight. I don't know why.
Knicks or Mavs?
Knicks. I got the Knicks.
Okay, I don't know if you got like an old one.
No, the Mavs ones. I was gonna get a Mavs one years ago, but they were dumb. I was waiting for them to do one of the retro ones for like one of Dirk's years, but they never chose that. They chose like really dumb ones for their city edition. So I just skipped it. And then when it came into the Knicks, I was like, yeah, like they went to their classic ones. Obviously,
Is the city edition Knicks one cool? I've never seen it.
No, the city edition Knicks one I don't like this year. I just got one. I got their
Pretty basic.
I got their away one, basically their blue one this year. So it's like pretty standard kind of classic Knicks.
I'm glad we did a heart monitor segment, but I'd be honest that I've actually shrugged away from the heart monitor segment because the program, it's so obvious the program is like every time a Villanova guy in the NBA does well, like they're all over it from a social media standpoint, which is like good, but it comes across to me like very much like, oh, look over there.
Which is
fair.
it's
This
kind of-
Villanova
it's
that's
funny,
actually
but
happening now.
and it's true, and
Yeah.
it's what I do too. When if we have a rough week, it's like, well, I can go watch 7 or 8 guys play in the NBA, and I don't care if they win or lose. It's just more fun that they are winning. But it's just nice to like, it's cool to Sadiq Bey is starting for the Hawks right now. Jeremiah Robinson Earl is getting minutes for the Pelicans. Jermaine and Colin are carving up the G League, just like they shouldn't be playing down there, but it's just like a minutes thing. And it's a nice escapism, option to have.
Yeah.
I saw 4 people in Knicks jerseys at a Nova game, which was frustrating, but I guess.
Bing bong. I still want to know who hurt Colin last year in practice, because like that person's terrible.
I could tell you offline.
Oh God.
Yeah. But the funny thing that we talk about jerseys and heart monitors and everything, the first time that I became aware of Rob was that he and my dad sat either next to each other, or my dad sat right behind him at a Pavilion game, and Rob was wearing a Josh Hart
Yes,
Lakers
the
jersey
Lakers jersey. Yes.
and he walked in sleeveless with the jersey with his like briefcase over his shoulder, and I did get some commentary from my dad about it.
I was quite vocal that game. We sat like in the
You were
lower
into it.
deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were like right behind Father Peter and like said hi to Father Peter before. He definitely gave me a couple looks during the game too. He's like, "Really, dude?" Just like,
Yeah, so that's mine and Rob's red string theory.
I
was working that game, and my dad was texting me, and he's like, "Some guy just came in. It's cold outside. Why does he not have a jacket?"
because I can.
Yeah.
I remember
I
somebody
went
was
to a
like,
Madison Square Garden game with Rob, and he just kept yelling, "Dirty!
"Dirty,
Dirty.
Which was
dirty."
awesome. I started then doing it too.
Dirty's a great chant for sure. I also had
And
something.
then Chris and
during
I had to
that-
leave.
Yes.
Chris and I had to leave with like 3 minutes left in the game, and they were coming back, St. John's, and he was refreshing his phone on the train and not talking. He's like,
Yes.
"Fuck, we're gonna fucking lose."
I really thought we were
I
going
was
to
like,
lose
I don't
that game.
We already left. Like we were up by like 14 or something. And he was like, "We'll have to wait an hour if we don't leave now." I was like, "All right, let's leave now." And that he was so angry on the train.
I
Sorry.
was.
Quick side note about that Lakers jersey. I wore it to, I think it was, I don't know, the year or so after Josh was like drafted. So obviously on the Lakers. And we didn't have as many guys in the NBA then. And I remember a couple people were like, "Why are you wearing a Lakers jersey?" I'm like, "Are you fucking stupid? Like, we have like 2 guys in the NBA and one of them plays for the Lakers. Like, the fuck do you think I'm wearing a Lakers jersey for?" Anyway, still bitter about that. I don't forget.
Nope. Whoever you are, you've been called out.
That's right.
Unrelated,
Awesome.
I have to text my dad.
Tell him I say hi.
I did it. I'm
Tell him
podcasting with the
Rachel.
guy who wore no jacket. He wore more clothes to the podcast than he did to the game.
Tell him I said dirty.
Yeah.
Tell him Rachel says hi too.
Dirty.
So- As we wrap up here, Rob, how's it feel being back on the show for a little bit?
It was very fun. I enjoyed my guest appearance. My continued lack of education. I think I felt better about it, not actually hosting. I could just kind of pontificate. It was great. And I enjoyed some more alcohol consumption during the week, which I haven't been doing as much. So tomorrow morning will be interesting. Sleep will not be good tonight, but it was fun to come back on. I hope to do it again soon.
Awesome. All right. That's all we got. We'll be back after the Marquette game. And we will, after that, we'll talk about the games to come versus UConn and St. John's. So we'll be back with you next week. Thanks everybody for listening. And as always, let's go Nova.